And I think when you have those moments that could be perceived as a negative event, I got divorced really long time ago. That was another one. When you have these moments that are sort of negative, you might think those moments can actually help you a lot if you reflect on that moment and sort of recalibrate on what you want to do with your life.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the next episode of the Slow Smoke Business Podcast. I'm your host, Jarrod Morgan, and today we're out in the backyard. We're going to be grilling up some chicken and steak kabobs, one of my favorite things, super easy, super quick. Might actually get to see me eat a little bit of that stuff today. And I'm joined by my new friend, Christian Espinosa. Now, Christian is an author. He has done all sorts of cool things in his career as a cybersecurity expert and has a super inspiring story. So welcome to the show, Christian.
Yeah, thanks, Jarrod. I'm excited for your grilling, see how it turns out.
Yeah, so you're in Idaho, right?
I am in Idaho at the moment, yes.
Okay.
I own a house in Idaho, but I'm always somewhere different. I've been living in a motorhome north of Phoenix for a while.
Oh, wow. Okay. So do you do much grilling up in Idaho or wherever you are? I guess if you're moving around a lot, maybe it's harder to do that.
I do grilling in the motorhome, yeah.
Now, is that harder or easier to do?
It's snowing here, so they're not doing too much grilling right now in Idaho.
Dude, it's snowing there. I'm literally fighting a sweat here in Alabama right now. It's early December, and I am sweating. That is, I wish it's not putting me in the Christmas spirit. That's for sure. This kind of weather. So we've got some orange glazed chicken kebabs, and we've got some black garlic steak kebabs. You see that pretty well? Looks pretty good. Now, what's cool about these is they're not going to take that long. So I'm going to hit my probes in them to make sure we don't overcook them. Kebabs will cook very fast, obviously, because it's a small cut of meat. So there's not that much matter to probe through with the heat. And so that's why I say you'll probably actually get a chance to see me eat some of this time. I'm not sure that's a good or a bad thing, but awesome. Okay. So, cybersecurity experts, you've done a whole bunch of stuff. Tell me about your role today. What are you doing these days? I know you've been doing a lot in the cybersecurity realm for a long time.
I sold my cybersecurity business, Alpine Security, in December of 2020, and then I left the parent company, Cerberus Sentinel, in June. And since then, I've been doing a lot of real estate investing. I'm working on my second book.
Wow. I'm
working on a TED Talk.
Okay.
And I'm preparing to launch my next cybersecurity company, which I'll launch here in January. I'm getting that strategy and plan all figured out right now.
Well, that's really exciting. What's your TED Talk going to be about?
It's aligned with my next book, which is on sort of the small moments, I think, between the big moments in life. For like people that are super high achievers, we tend to always be looking to accomplish that big goal, and we often overlook the small things along the journey. So my book is about focusing back on those small things in a way, those micro moments, as I like to call them, in a way that will enhance our life and the lives of other people.
You've had quite a journey to get to where you are. You sort of glossed over that like it's no big deal, but congratulations on starting growing and selling a business. Like being able to sell a business anytime is an impressive thing. And, most businesses don't even really make it off the launch pad, and then the rest of them don't even make it a year. And so to get all the way to the end of the finish line like that is really, really impressive. So congratulations on that.
Well, thank you.
Why don't you back up and tell me a little bit about your story? Where did you grow up? And I know you kind of went through a lot of stuff. You've shared some of that publicly before.
I was born in California, and my childhood was very chaotic. We moved to Arkansas when I was 12. So I went from Riverside, California, a big city, basically a suburb of LA, to this town called Knoxville, Arkansas, which had like 800 people. And
wow.
Yeah, it was quite the culture shock.
And Arkansas from California, which is a big change too, right?
Definitely a big change, yeah. And throughout that journey, my mother's was always addicted to like prescription medication, and it kind of got worse. So my childhood was very chaotic. We were on welfare and WIC, which is where they give you like government cheese and food stamps, all that stuff. And it was pretty embarrassing and difficult. And I lived with my grandparents my senior year to try to have some more stability. And then I applied for every military academy there was and ended up getting accepted to, I got accepted to all of them, but I chose to go to the Air Force Academy. So that was like my ticket sort of out of my chaotic childhood. Then I was in the military for about 6 years.
Wow. So was your mom still married to your dad, or did you have two parents, or was it a one-parent household when you were going through all that?
My real father, I've never met my real father. My mom divorced him when I think I was like 5 months old. And then my stepfather, David, moved with us to Arkansas. And then he left shortly after that, after we moved there. So it was just after like maybe 6 months in Arkansas, it was just my mother and my two half-brothers from David and myself.
And you lived with your grandparents your senior year. When you went into your senior year, did you really have a plan, or did you sort of just move to the military because you weren't really sure what you wanted to do, or was that always the plan?
My plan was to get out of my environment and get out of Arkansas because I associated that with my environment.
Sure.
So I applied for every scholarship there was, and I ended up getting more scholarships than my entire class combined when I graduated, because I was pretty driven to change my circumstances. I didn't even want to like have a girlfriend or anything that would distract me from like getting out of the situation. Basically, it was like, you know, I could have easily fallen victim to my situation with my mother, but I found it motivating in a way to get out of that environment and do something better with my life.
When did you realize something was wrong with your mom? You talked about, I just wanted to change my environment. You were super focused on that. Did you gradually get there mentally, or did you know from an early age that something was wrong?
I always knew internally there was something inside me that said this environment is not the right environment, that there's a better way of living. And one specific moment that kind of solidified that this was not right was a Mother's Day. I think I was probably 9 years old. And it was Mother's Day, and I was like walking home from school, and this is in California. Back then, you could walk to and from school without being kidnapped, basically. So it's different now. But I was walking back to school, and I heard like loud music playing from my house, and it was Bob Dylan. It was super loud. And typically, when my mom was playing Bob Dylan super loud, there was something wrong. So when I walked in the house, it was a pretty chaotic scene. My mother was on whatever drug she was on. My stepfather wasn't there. And she collected these glass eggs. So she had this bowl of these like cool looking glass eggs. But what happened is, I don't know why she did this, but she took the glass eggs and threw them at all the pictures that she had hung up with glass framing. So there's glass from the pictures on the floor. And then we had these aquariums. She took the glass eggs and threw them at the aquariums, and the aquariums broke. So there's like water and glass on the floor and like fish like flopping in the glass. And it was like the most bizarre scene, as a 9-year-old. So I just kind of like looked at it. And then what I would do typically when something like that happened is like retreat to nature. So there's this place I would go, this hill in the back of my house. I climbed up that hill and just kind of sat there and reflected on things until things calmed down. So I think my chaotic childhood also gave me a good love for nature as well.
Wow. And you were 9.
Yeah.
You were 9 years old when this was happening. Did this happen a lot?
Various things to that degree happened quite a bit, yeah.
Wow. And so by the time you get to high school, I can certainly tell, like, it's clearly you want to change your circumstance. You get into the military. How many years were you in the military?
I was in the military 6 years after the Air Force Academy. So 10 years total if you count the Air Force Academy.
Okay, wow. And when you come out, was there a plan to get into entrepreneurship and dive into cybersecurity, or where did you go when you got out?
When I got out of the military, one of the things I didn't have growing up was stability. So I wanted stability and certainty when I graduated and when I got out of the military. So I got a job as a defense contractor, bought a house, was married, had the, typical checkbox of all the successes people think. And I did cybersecurity in the military, and I did, my first job was doing cybersecurity as an employee and a defense contractor. I the entrepreneurship wasn't really on my mind at that point. It was more just the stability and a stable life because I didn't have it growing up really.
Did you ever have a relationship with your mom after you sort of left for the military, or did that end?
My relationship with my mom was always a little bit strained, and I used to have a lot of resentment for my mom because my half brothers, as I mentioned, the chaotic childhood took a little more toll on them than me. So one of the things I've had to work on is reframing what that childhood and what my relationship with my mother meant to me. Because I think ultimately, like, life has no meaning. The only meaning there is what we assign to something. And I had assigned that resentment and that kind of like hate and that feeling of like, I didn't have a normal childhood, which was holding me back in life. So I reframed that and decided, my mother was doing the best she could do with the resources she had. And if I had a different childhood, I may not have turned out the way I did. So I changed it from that resentfulness to more of a gratitude for my childhood.
Anthony Robbins says that as well. He had a pretty rough upbringing, and he says he blames his mother for a lot of things, but also a lot of positive things. And like, he just wouldn't have been able to become the person and come to the place he was in life had he not been there. You said something there I thought was really interesting, though. You said life has no meaning except the meaning you sort of ascribe to it. And I think that's such a neat way to frame your experience, but really everybody's experience. It's such a way to take ownership of how you're going to react to the things that have happened around you. And it's certainly like the opposite of the victim mentality, right? Mm-hmm. Where did you we're going to get to the story of how you started this company, and I can't wait to hear it or whatever, but like, it's so interesting to get the backstory. Where did you get that grit to know what you needed to do, or know that you wanted to take ownership and be something different? Because so many people fall into a victim mentality if they've been faced with something like that.
I think for me, I was, and I still am, I'm competitive. So one of the driving factors for me was to be the best academically, the best athletically, and that competitiveness helped me. And ironically, I was just talking to I graduated number 2 in my class, and I was talking to the number 1 person, a friend of mine, and I was talking to her. She's got pancreatic cancer, is like saying her goodbyes to me, basically.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I was telling her, because it's true that because she was ahead of me academically, it motivated me to do better because I wanted to be number 1. So our friendship over the years has been a great friendship, and we kind of motivated each other to do better academically in high school. So I think that grit for me was really just because I'm competitive. I don't like to not win at something. It's like maybe it's just a natural trait in my DNA or something.
Sure. So how did you get to a place where you let's talk about your company. What was the name of your company, by the way?
Alpine Security.
When did you start Alpine exactly? What year was it?
I started Alpine Security in the end of 2014.
Wow, so you 6-year run. That's not bad. It could be. It took me a lot longer to get to where I was going, so that's impressive. So you started that business. Tell me about that process. What made you want to jump out and start your own cybersecurity company?
I was working as a VP for a company, and I was making a lot of money. I was pretty successful, but I had this run-in with the CEO where I didn't see eye to eye with her, and I decided one day just to quit without having another job lined up. And this is the first time I had quit a job without having another job. But I decided like the wear and tear on me mentally and emotionally was too much. So it didn't matter how much money they paid me. I just needed to go somewhere else. Like I quit, and I decided to do freelance work at that point. So then I did freelance work or solopreneur work, as they like to call it, for about 6 years. And then I had so many opportunities come my way that I thought, well, maybe this is the universe telling me I should start a business and hire some people and contribute at a higher level, because I can hire people, help the economy, help train people in my culture and my beliefs, and provide a better service than other cybersecurity providers.
Yeah, sometimes it's like a negative experience that motivates you to want to do it the right way, right? And you learn a lot. I think you probably learn more from being around failure or people not doing it correctly than you do being around someone who is pristine and does it well. So you started that business and it was I guess you said like a solopreneur, one man band for a little while. Did you ever add people as you went along?
Yeah, I ended up at first having independent contractors, and then I put people on payroll. I had up to 16 people at one point on payroll.
Wow. So what kind of cybersecurity work did you guys do?
We mainly focused on penetration testing, which is ethical hacking, and then I niched it down to medical device cybersecurity because I believe there's a lot of advances in healthcare and in medical technology, and I don't want to see those advances rolled back because of cyber criminals breaking into those devices. And I'd hate for my loved one to be in the hospital and have their drug infusion pump tacked into and die because somebody increases the flow rate of a drug, for instance. So it's a very tangible and a very needed market. And not a lot of people were doing that. So I niched it down and kind of focused on like the blue ocean strategy and became really good at that specific thing, which resulted in us getting lots of leads from our website and really growing that specific area of the business more so than the other ones.
I'm going to check the grill while we're talking, but you said a cool phrase there that I'm not sure everybody knows. Ooh, chicken's getting close to being done. You said blue ocean strategy, and as opposed to a red ocean strategy. Can you explain what those two things are?
Yeah, red ocean strategy. The ocean's red because there's lots of blood in it. So it's like everybody's like going after the same clients, and it's very competitive, and success is a lot less likely. A blue ocean strategy where there's not a lot of people in that ocean. There's not a lot of competition. So with medical devices, that was more blue ocean because just with cybersecurity by itself, just as a whole, it's more red ocean. But since I niched it down to medical device cybersecurity, that was more blue ocean. There's only a few competitors in that space, which makes it easier to get clients. But it's counterintuitive because we often think if we niche something down a lot, then we're not going to have as many clients or as much success. But it's actually the opposite happens.
Yeah, well, and you get better. I agree. Like, I think if you try to be too many things to too many people, you end up being not really good at anything. Right?
That's right. In college, they always say, we try to make you well-rounded. So we always said, well, you're making us so well-rounded, we have no point.
Yeah. There's a, I think that's so smart because you sort of said it, like you niched it down, but I mean, there's like a lot of cybersecurity firms out there. It's a growing field, but for you to specialize in something, and particularly something, medical device cybersecurity, which, is a booming part of the medical industry, right? And certainly there's not a lot of people specializing in that. I think that was really smart. Obviously, it paid dividends. By the way, there you go. If you want a good shot of how we're doing there. Can we see that?
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah, I'm going to let it cool a little bit, and then we'll dig into it. So you grew and you grew. You got into 2020. How did the pandemic affect your business? Because it's interesting you transacted in the pandemic year. So did that affect your business at all, or did it just keep growing?
It affected the business quite a bit. We did training as well. And a lot of our students use ProctorU for their exams. Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Very familiar with it. We did EC Council training, so ProctorU was the preferred platform.
EC Council, we love those guys.
Yeah. So a lot of students stopped enrolling in our classes, because we did live classes, so that dried up. And then a lot of our clients were afraid to make a decision to move forward with a penetration test or a medical device assessment. So I had to make some tough decisions, and at first I reduced people's pay, and then I had to lay some people off, and I had to just flat out fire some people to get through the pandemic.
It was a hard time for a lot of businesses. So what did you learn from that experience, that pandemic experience? Is there something you would have done differently?
I would have probably not cut everything so close. I would have had more of a reserve and preparation for something like that. Before I was trying to grow as quickly as possible, the company. So any money we had, I used it for growth or marketing or some new strategy. And I didn't have a lot of reserves I wasn't really prepared for something that severe to happen. And I know there's a balance there, but I think moving forward, I would be more prepared.
Yeah, I think business continuity was like a really, to use your word, kind of a niche-y thing. Not a lot of people talked about it. And then after the pandemic, like, it's front and center, right? And thinking about how you harden your business against all sorts of, outages and financial problems and things. It's hard to do. And frankly, like if you have investors and things like that, you're not always encouraged to do that. I know one of the things we did at Procter U was we had locations all over the world so that we could survive. It wasn't pandemics. It was like natural disasters. We'd had a couple of hurricanes that had taken out some of our facilities and taken them offline for a while, and it really hurt our business years ago. And so we had built like a network of locations. So we were, the sun never sets on Procter U kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And took a lot of heat from that. I mean, there was multiple times we'd be in board meetings or meeting with investors and things, and they're like, well, why are you doing that? Your competitor over there is only in one place, and they own that place, and look at their profits. And we knew just inherently that was too much of a business risk. Yeah. While we'd get like the sugar high of the profits of being able to, do that, we just wouldn't be hardened against. Now, of course, we didn't realize there was going to be a pandemic, but then there's one of the reasons why we soared during the pandemic when a lot of our competitors really struggled, was because we had that. I wish we could say we had all of that hardness and everything, but in that core competency, we did, and we were fortunate. But those lessons are hard. I mean, we looked foolish, kind of, before the pandemic. Like, people are like, what are you doing? Like, hit the gas, man. Focus, get efficient, get one location. And, it's funny sometimes, you look stupid until you look brilliant sometimes. But you've built, so you sold your company, you're writing books, you got a TED Talk going, it sounds like you got like a lot of good things going on in your life. What does that tough background that you had do for your perspective today? You're a high achieving guy. You've done a lot of really cool things that very few people have ever done. How does that background affect the way you look at yourself and your life today?
I think it's humbled me. I don't feel like I'm better than anybody in any capacity, because I've started from, basically nothing. And I have a lot of empathy for people in a similar situation. I think in life, I've had these certain things that happen, like the moment with a fish, for instance. This year in February, I discovered I had 6 blood clots in my leg and I almost died.
Oh, wow.
So there's these certain moments that sort of like force me to reflect and recalibrate on my life. And I think when you have those moments that could be perceived as a negative event, I got divorced really long time ago. That was another one. When you have these moments that are sort of negative, you might think those moments can actually help you a lot if you reflect on that moment and sort of recalibrate on what you want to do with your life. Like the blood clots really forced me to like slow down and regroup and think about what was important to me. Even that conversation with my friend who was saying goodbye because she has pancreatic cancer and is having surgery and she may not make it out of it, forced me to think about my own life and think, am I focused on what's really important? Or am I so focused on accomplishing the big goal to feel significant that I'm missing the little things in between? And that's ultimately why I'm writing my second book, is on that specific thing. Because I think as high achievers, it's easy to just focus on the achievement and miss out on all the stuff along the way.
Christian, I don't know if your love language is verbal or whatever, but you are a badass, man. Like, listening to your story is really something. And it's interesting because I see a guy like you who has had so many reasons to quit or to just accept a lesser life, and didn't do it. And there's so many people out there that just are not starting out with the disadvantages that you have, and are finding reasons why not to go for it. And I think sometimes it's like it takes people who, them even getting to par is an unreasonable expectation given their background. And so once you're, for somebody like you, it's unreasonable to think that you're going to get to a good life when you have that background. So you're sort of used to unreasonable expectations, I guess, and which just sort of push you past, where it could have ended up, and look where you flew to. You've done some incredible things. If you could give some advice to people out there that are struggling with depression or feeling like they're not good enough, or like, man, why would I be successful, or why should I go for it? What would you tell somebody if they feel like their background or who they are is what's going to prevent them from going for their dream?
I think we all have the power to change our lives. It's a matter of thinking what you want your life to look like, and actually taking the steps, the action, and knowing that along the way you're going to make mistakes. But we have that power, and we need to be persistent with it. A lot of us will start on a diet or something, for instance, and then we're not losing weight immediately, so we'll give up. Often, and it's interesting, I've been listening to The Power of One More by Ed Mylett, and I believe in that concept. It's also talked about in Think and Grow Rich. It's like often we're one more try or one more step away from breaking out of the cycle or breaking through, and we give up too soon. So I think knowing that, and knowing that our traits with a growth mindset are not fixed, our brain is not hardwired. We can rewire our brain and change our patterns, change our behavior. Those things, as well as, I think this is extremely important, surrounding yourself by the right people helps a lot. I believe you're the average of the 5 people you hang around with, and there's many people that talk about that. I think if you do those things and you are specific on what you want to achieve, then the possibility of you achieving that, the probability is very high. But you have to do the work, basically. It's not just going to happen one day as you're doing the same routine over and over that hasn't gotten you where you want to go. Yeah,
that's so inspiring, Christian. By the way, I love Ed Mylett too. By the way, I'm going to go check that book out. He's awesome. It's so cool to hear your story. Now we're heading into the end of the year. Do you have a process or something that you follow, or something that you do to focus yourself for a new year, or do you kind of wing it? Are you like a New Year's resolution kind of guy?
In the past, I used to wing it. Now I have a process. I'm writing down my goals. I have goals for my book, for my talk, for my real estate. And then for my business, my new cybersecurity business, I use what's called the one-page strategic plan, which I think is extremely important. That's from Scaling Up, Vern Harnish's organization. And you could download that for free, but it puts basically your year plan on one page in all the things that are important: your values, your goals, your aspirational goals, your niche, your target client. I do that. And the other thing I do is work on my branding to make sure I understand my client and what their pain points are, and my messaging that goes along with that for my next business.
That's incredible. I think this meat here has probably cooled down enough, so let's give it a try.
I wish I was there to give it a try with you. I got.
By the way, I feel a little sheepish. Like your subject matter is so poignant and awesome, and I'm listening to you tell all this cool stuff, and then I'm like, let's turn around and eat this steak, But hey, this is the show we're in. By the way, what do you like to grill? You said you grill when you're in the RV. Like, what do you like to grill?
I like to grill steak. I'm a big fan of New York strip or KC strip steak. Those are probably my favorites. Mushrooms, I grill mushrooms a lot too.
What is a KC steak?
Kansas City strip.
What's the difference between that and I'm sorry, it caught me biting. This is really good, by the way. The garlic and the pepper on it is awesome. What's the difference between a KC steak and a New York steak?
I don't really know what the difference is. I just know that the last steakhouse I went to had a KC Kansas City strip, and I never used to order that, but it was wet and dry. It's both wet and dry made, and I thought I'll try it, and it was awesome. But I normally just get the New York strips, but that one was awesome.
By the way, look, Mom, I just ate some vegetables off of the skewer, so Hope Mom's watching this episode. Christian, your story was incredible, man. Thank you so much for sharing with us, and looking forward. You've got the one book. So what was your first book called?
It's called The Smartest Person in the Room.
Okay. And where can we find that book?
You can find it on Amazon. It's also on Audible. I had Kaleo Griffith narrate it. He did Trump's The Art of the Deal and quite a few other Tim Ferriss books. Yeah, he's really good.
That's incredible. Well, Christian, this has just been such a good, such a cool discussion. Where can people find you if they'd like to find you and learn a little more or get in contact with you?
Probably the best place is my website. It's christianespinosa.com. I'm also on all social media, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn.
Christian, this has been such a treat. Thank you so much for being here. Go find Christian online, get inspired, follow his story some more, and certainly if you like this episode, make sure you hit follow. Look for us on TikTok and Instagram. Give us a high rating on here. Hit follow for new episodes, and we'll see you next time. Thank you, Christian.
All right. Thanks, Jarrod. Appreciate it.